I'm Lisa from Pink Holly Bush Designs, and welcome back to Make Your Daughter a Dress. This is lesson 8, and we're going to be putting our skirt together. Now, our last 2 lessons involved some a little bit more tricky sewing. We finished our armholes using the burrito method, and we put in a skirt placket. So today's lesson is really simple sewing. So I hope you're ready for a little bit of a break. So let's have some fun and get started. So the first thing we need to do is transfer the markings on our pocket. So I've got my purple marker and I've put a pin in each of the dots. And on the wrong side of my 4 pocket pieces, I'm just gonna make a dot where that pin goes through. Get it there. Okay. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to finish the raw edges of both the pocket pieces and the side seams of the skirt. On the bodice, I didn't have you do that because all of the raw edges get enclosed in the lining, but that's not the case on the skirt. So we need to finish those edges so the first time you wash it, you don't end up with a mess with those edges fraying. Okay, so there's my my pockets are all marked. So to finish the edges, you have 2 choices. If you have a serger, you can just run it through the serger, but make sure you don't cut off the seam allowance as you do it. If you don't have a serger, and please don't think you need one. I've been sewing for over 30 years and I only got a serger 2 years ago. So if you don't have a serger, then you're just going to use your zigzag, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. I'm at my machine. I've set it for a basic zigzag. I have my regular all-purpose foot on the machine, and I'm just going to sew that zigzag so that the right-hand swing of the needle goes just off the edge of the fabric. And I am going to back tack, and you might want to get started with the swing actually staying on the fabric and then move to it going off, which is now what I'm doing. And you're just going to go like this all the way down the side seams and also all around your pockets. Okay, if you cannot find where your notches are that we cut on your side seams, especially after you zigzag or serge it, just lay your pattern piece back over your skirt, stick the pins through the dots, and then mark those dots on the wrong side of the fabric, because we are going to go ahead now and sew our pockets onto our skirt. So on your skirt, you only had to finish the edges of the side seams. You don't need to do the waist, and you don't need to do the hem. Both the waist and the hem will get finished down the line. So right now we have our side seams done, and you want to take your pocket and you're going to put right sides together, and you're just going to match up those dots. So you're going to find a dot on each edge, and that's where your pocket's going to be placed. There's my dot. There's my dot. Okay. I'm going to do this on all 4 side seams of my skirt, and then I'm going to sew with a 1/2-inch seam allowance from the edge of the pocket down to the edge of the pocket, and I'm going to back tack at both edges using a straight stitch. I've sewn all 4 pockets onto my skirts, and I've pressed the seam flat, and then I've pressed the pocket away from the skirt. And now I'm going to line up my side seams, and I'm going to pin them together. And I'm going to pin my pockets together as well. And I'm going to make sure that I can see those 2 dots still, because I'm going to sew both of my side seams. I'm going to sew down to the dot, pivot at the dot, and sew around the pocket bag, back to the dot, pivot at this dot, and then go down the rest of the side seam. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, here we are at the machine. Again, I'm using that straight stitch, and I'm going to sew with a 1/2-inch seam allowance. And I'm going to back tack at the top. Go down and stop right on that dot. There we go. Lift my presser foot up, put my needle down on the dot, lift the presser foot, and then pivot and go right around the pocket bag. And to get nicely around that curve, you're going to have to do the same thing. A couple of putting the needle down and pivot. And I'm going to sew right up to, again, that dot, put my needle down, pivot, and now sew that 1/2 inch all the way down to the bottom of the skirt. Right, I'm at my iron, and as always, I'm going to press the pocket, the seam flat. And now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to clip this seam allowance just below and above the pocket bag. And I'm going to do that so I can press this part open. And I've pressed the pocket bag towards the front of the skirt. Now I'm not cutting the pocket piece at all. I'm just cutting right above it. And through that seam right up to the stitching, just so I can open up and reduce, so I can reduce the bulk and I don't have it all going towards the front. So there's the pocket piece going towards the front, and otherwise the seam allowances are pressed open. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So here's my finished side seam and my finished pocket bag, and that's it for today's lesson. So go ahead and get your side seams sewn up, your pockets attached, and those side seam edges finished as well, and have a wonderful weekend. I will be back on Monday where we will get our waist line gathered and piped. Happy sewing.